Hello and welcome back to the Anti-Aging Hacks podcast. Today, my guest is Michael Leon, who's received his PhD from the University of Chicago. He is currently Professor Emeritus in the Department of Neurobiology and Behavior at the University of California, Irvine. He is also a member of the Center for the Neurobiology of Learning and Memory, as well as the Institute for Memory Impairments and Neurological Disorders at UCI. He has received Research Scientist Development Award from the National Institute for Mental Health for his work on the neurobiology of early learning, the D.G. Markey Award from the American Psychological Association for developing an effective treatment for children with autism, and the Healthcare Technology Acceleration Award from the California Healthcare Foundation for his work on body weight normalization. In a recent analysis from Stanford University, he was ranked among the top 2% of scientists in the world, which is amazing. Would you like to get thicker, fuller, and stronger hair? Then make sure to check out fullyvital.com. The team's come up with fantastic and natural products that help rejuvenate your hair, but also delay and reverse gray hairs. So if you're interested in better hair, go to fullyvital.com and use the code anti-aging-hacks for 15% off your order. Are you enjoying the shows on this channel? Then please make sure to hit the subscribe button down below so you can get notified when we release new episodes. Our goal with this show is to help you and give you practical tips that you can use to slow down and reverse your aging so you can live and feel younger and live your best life. With that said, let's get on with the show. Thank you, Michael, for coming on the Anti-Aging Hacks show.
My pleasure.
So we're going to have a very, very interesting discussion, which I never thought I would be having, but we are going to discuss what the problem of Alzheimer's and dementia in general, but also how a new recent discovery and a study you've been involved in personally is helping shed new light on treatments that are very cheap and very affordable and quite effective for people that are worried about this. So with that said, tell us who you are and your interest in brain health.
Well, I've been doing this for quite a while. I was fascinated by the brain. It's the most complicated thing in the universe, but also the most fascinating. It's the thing that governs our behavior, our emotions, our cognitive ability, and it is a continual source of fascination for me.
Wonderful. And obviously you've won a lot of awards, so you are quite established and quite a smart gentleman. So thank you for coming on.
My pleasure.
The problem with Alzheimer's is that it's a huge problem for people that are entering their, sixth decade of life or later, and just losing your memory can seem like the world is ending, as you said, because everything starts to disappear and you feel like you're on an island alone and nobody can understand what you're going through. But it also appears that people that have had an enriched life earlier on in their lives don't seem to suffer from as much of the memory loss or some of the other conditions related to dementia or Alzheimer's or associated with dementia or Alzheimer's. Can you shed some light on why that might be?
So there's a fascinating phenomenon. If you look at the brains of people who die with high levels of beta amyloid, which is one of the central aspects of Alzheimer's disease, about a third of them don't have any memory loss, which is really surprising. And if you look carefully at these individuals, they've had an enriched environment during their lifetime, which means they've had a great deal of cognitive stimulation. They've had a job that's been cognitively demanding. They've had a lot of social interactions. And these people are able to have the disease, that is, they have the neuropathology in their brain, but they don't have the symptoms, that is, they don't have memory loss. And so there are actually animal models of Alzheimer's disease where you can genetically engineer the brain to have all of the neuropathology that is involved in Alzheimer's disease. But if you put them in an enriched environment, a bunch of friends, a lot bigger cage, a lot more things to do, these individuals don't have memory loss. So you have an animal model of the human condition where a great deal of stimulation avoids the memory loss that older adults are appropriately afraid of. And so on the other extreme, the people who are most likely to get memory loss and have Alzheimer's disease are illiterate people, people who get very little cognitive stimulation over the course of their lifetimes. And so it seemed to us that a really good idea would be to find a way to stimulate the brain, particularly the memory centers of the brain, in a way that could help people either prevent memory loss or reverse memory loss once it's established.
And you found a great way, and the study you've published just kind of shows us how effective it's been. So the quick
So,
takeaway from just 2 minutes of this conversation is that if you're not living a mentally stimulated life, then maybe it's a warning sign, or maybe it's a suggestion that you might start doing things that require mental stimulation, be that friendships, or be that taking a new path to work, or doing puzzles or whatnot, where your brain, or learning a new language, where your brain is stimulated and you're not just sitting around just you know resting on your laurels for all the stuff you've done previously. So I want to move on to what you've done and the research you've found, which is really cool and really interesting, and it has to do with the olfactory system, or I believe, which is the smell system. So why is that system so unique among all the senses, Michael?
so the olfactory system has the only direct superhighway access to the memory centers of your brain. All the other senses can stimulate the memory centers, but they have to go through the brain's side streets. It's called the thalamus of the brain. And consequently, all the other senses have much less impact on the memory centers of your brain compared to the olfactory or odor sensing system. And when you look at people who develop memory loss, invariably they lose their olfactory ability. And that's for Alzheimer's disease, Lewy body disease, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, semantic dementia. All the dementias are associated with memory loss. And as you age and hit about the age of 60, what happens is that both your olfactory system and your memory system start to deteriorate simultaneously. And we think there's a good reason for this, because what it means is that your memory centers are not getting the odor stimulation that keeps them healthy.
And this is very interesting. So at about age 60 is when this decline starts to happen, both mentally, but also on the olfactory system level, the sense of smell. And so is this a slow decline, or is this pretty rapid once you hit 60 to 65?
So it's a slow decline, but as you get older, both your memory systems and your olfactory system decline in concert. That is, they both deteriorate at about the same rate. But if you have olfactory loss, the loss of your sense of smell at any time, it also puts your memory centers at risk. So many people who've had olfactory loss during COVID, what's happened is that there's been an enormous increase in the number of new Alzheimer's cases that we think in part are triggered by the loss of olfaction due to COVID.
Interesting. I have heard stories of the losing your sense of smell during COVID, and there were some protocols where people were using essential oils and smelling multiple of those in some combination or frequency. And it seems like many people got their sense of smell back. I don't know if it came back 100%, but I don't know if you have any data, or if you've heard any instances of people being able to recover their olfactory sense.
So one of the ways that, in fact, the only way, as I think of it, that people are able to facilitate the recovery of their olfactory sense is by having olfactory enrichment. Some people call it olfactory training. And what it is giving multiple odors. It's not aromatherapy where one special odor has a special effect, but it's multiple odors that trigger the olfactory system to recover. And it also turns out to allow your memory system to recover.
And that's the interesting part that I want to touch on now is you're part of a study that found a 226% improvement in cognitive ability after, I believe, 6 months of olfactory enrichment. First of all, that's a remarkable number. So congratulations for getting this data that we need. But also, what prompted this study in the first place? How did you know to go down this path?
Well, we've been studying olfactory function for many years, and we understand its central role in stimulating the memory centers of your brain. It turns out that the memory centers of your brain and the olfactory system developed at the same time. They evolved at the same time. And so when all this was going on, the memory centers were stimulated by a great deal of olfactory stimulation because there was a great deal of olfactory stimulation when the brain was evolving. For
Mm-hmm.
example, nobody ever took a shower. And so there's a great deal of odor all around all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But in our modern world, we get very little olfactory stimulation. In fact, if you took a deep breath now, you probably wouldn't smell anything. And there are other things that damage the olfactory system, in part because it's the only neurons that have direct exposure to the outside world. So
Mm-hmm.
air pollution, smoking, stress, toxins, menopause, early stress for children, uh, a large number of medications that impact the system can damage it. And of course, everybody has had COVID by now. And so all of those things can damage it. And so the olfactory system, not only we don't get enough olfactory stimulation in our daily lives, but over time, the accumulated damage from all of these things that we experience further decreases the amount of olfactory stimulation. And we think this is a central reason why people start to lose their memory as they get older.
Mm-hmm. And since it is a bunch of neurons, I believe, that are in the olfactory system that are ultimately doing the sensing of the smell, so to speak, is it possible for humans to reverse the damage in the olfactory system, which would
Yeah.
require or necessitate rebuilding of neurons in some capacity, no?
Yeah, so there are studies with animals, mice, that show that if you take older mice and give them olfactory enrichment, which are multiple odors on a regular basis, what happens is that their cognitive abilities improve
Mm-hmm.
and their ability to make new neurons, it's called neurogenesis, that ability improves as well. And so they're making new neurons that repopulate the olfactory system and the memory system at the same time. And so this allows the system to, in fact, rejuvenate in a way
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and helps prevent further memory loss and can reverse the memory loss that's already happened.
This is just mind-boggling and fascinating just to hear you say this. And, I'd love to see firsthand people that are in my life to be able to take advantage of this technology when it becomes available. But so, how did you design this study, and what did you see from the start to finish of the participants that were in that study?
Well, at the time, the only way that we were able to stimulate people in this way is with a essential oil diffuser.
Hmm.
Um, we had them do this at night while they were sleeping because people are reliably in their bed. And we knew that they would be compliant because all they have to do is press a button and go to sleep. Every night we had a different odor over the
Hmm.
course of the week. And it was on for 2 hours every night as people were sleeping. And we did this for 6 months. And we had wonderful compliance. People were doing this reliably. They liked the odors. They found them pleasant. It also increased the amount of sleep that they got, which was an added benefit. Um, and after we tested them with a memory test before and after the 6 month period. And as you noted, there was a 226% improvement in memory, which is the largest improvement in memory for older adults that has ever been reported. And so there's been a great deal of excitement. In fact, 371,000 people have read the article, which is an amazing number of people who are interested in this. And there have been hundreds of media stories, and people are just really interested in it
Hmm.
because it gives them a way to um, treat and prevent the memory loss that older adults are appropriately afraid of.
Hmm. The addressable market for something, a device or technology that does this, that solves this problem or helps them in this regard, is huge. In America alone, it's probably 70 to 100 million people. And of course, that's not counting the rest of the world. So, really, really big ramifications and big applications for the technology, which I believe you're developing. So, this was in 6 months, and we don't know what might happen if people continue to do this every night for, let's say, 2 years or 3 years, or if they stop doing it just in 3 months. That data is not present yet, is it?
Right, right. The good
Okay.
thing about it is that unlike telling people to exercise or change their diet or take a pill,
Right.
this requires no effort
Right.
and
Nice.
no change in what you're doing. And so if you can just go to sleep and improve your brain, people like that idea. Uh,
Yeah.
and that is, in fact, why we designed it to stimulate your brain as you sleep, because
Hmm.
we wanted to have universal compliance so that
Hmm.
everybody would be doing this on a regular basis. And so, unlike a lot of things where you say, okay, well, I'm going to go on a diet for a month, or I'm going to exercise for 2 months, there's nothing preventing people from getting this for the rest of their lives,
Right.
right? Because
Yeah.
there's no effort
Right.
involved
Right.
and it's relatively low cost. And so people can do it without a great deal of problems that prevent the implementation of
Mhm.
this kind of treatment. And so that's why we designed it to do it at night and to do it without any effort.
I agree. Compliance is key for anything in life, typically, if you're trying to make long-lasting change and a change of this magnitude. And just the compliance being required is you hit a button every night before you go to bed. Hey, sign me up for that too. So it looks like you gathered together, was it, I believe, 40 odors. And so what is the rationale, or how do you come up with 40 odors? I didn't even know there were 40 essential oils. I'm assuming that's what you did. But is it only good odors? Could you have dirty, smelly socks or dirty, smelly humans as an odor?
So in our most recent study, we found that there are 139 medical conditions that are associated with both olfactory loss and
Hmm.
an increase in inflammation, right?
Yeah.
So it's everything from memory loss to cancer to heart disease to stroke, epilepsy, schizophrenia. The list goes on and on and on. And what we think is really fascinating is that you get both olfactory loss and an increase in inflammation. And what pleasant odors do is that it decreases inflammation.
Mm.
Unpleasant odors increase inflammation. And so we think that the mechanism by which this olfactory stimulation works is by decreasing inflammation. And when people have looked carefully, the olfactory loss and the, we think, concomitant inflammation, the inflammation that follows it, uh, makes the brain and the body vulnerable to an increase in inflammation, which allows the symptoms of all these disorders to appear. And if you look closely, and these are very difficult experiments to do because you have to test olfactory function and then test them or track them for years to see if
Mhm.
they develop heart disease. And it turns out that a loss of olfaction increases the risk of heart disease. It increases the risk of cancer. It comes before that. It increases the risk of multiple sclerosis. It increases the risk of depression. And it may be that the way that it does this is by increasing the level of inflammation. And if you can give people the pleasant odors that decrease the inflammation, it
Mhm.
may allow you to decrease the risk of not only memory loss, but maybe many of these other problems.
Got it. So the belief is that olfactory loss is a causal factor towards increased inflammation and therefore heart disease, cancer, and all of those other conditions that are downstream of it. And if some way we can reverse the olfactory loss, that will then causally change the downstream impacts of inflammation or lowering inflammation and therefore reducing the risk for heart disease, cancers, and all the other conditions that we listed. Is that the current thinking? It's a
That's
causal.
the idea. So
Yeah.
we have it, we have good evidence that we can do this for memory.
Yeah.
We don't have evidence for any of these other things. That's just an idea that we have. But
Got it.
the idea is based on the reality of the situation. I don't think anybody would have guessed that there are 139 disorders, medical disorders, that are associated with olfactory loss.
Right. Right. Maybe even, yeah, even recently, nobody would have guessed that. So we're making strides in understanding the human body in
Right.
crazy ways. And so I'm assuming that for folks that are maybe younger than 60, that are in their 40s, 50s, even 30s, they might be thinking, well, how can I use this? Is the device, so first of all, you're building a device, Michael, you and the
Right.
team. It's going to be called memory air, and the you're going to replicate what you wanted to do in the study, which is 40 different odors, but you're going to be able to do that. Is it going to be one odor per night in the device, or is it going to be all 40 odors in the same night in this device?
So you're going to get 40 odors twice a night. And
Wow.
uh, and that kind of stimulation has now been shown to reverse the memory loss of older adults with dementia, which
Wow.
means that as we speak, it is the most effective treatment for Alzheimer's disease by far.
Yeah.
And so the treatments for Alzheimer's disease, we want something that's effective, we want something that's safe, we want something that's low cost, and we want something that is easy to obtain. And the drugs that we currently have are ineffective, dangerous,
Mhm.
high cost, and you have to go to the hospital to get the infusion. And
Yeah.
so this changes all of that. And
Mhm.
the study that has shown that 40 odors twice a day works. Of course, nobody's going to do that. It also showed that you also get a decrease in depression symptoms in these individuals. And so this is the most powerful way that we have to treat severe memory loss as in dementia.
Mhm.
And there are now about 20 studies that show that increasing olfactory stimulation improves cognition, both in the brain and in behavior. And so it's not just our study now, it's a whole bunch of these studies. There's even a new study that shows that you can use olfactory stimulation in older adults with dementia that actually decreases beta amyloid, the amyloid plaques that are in the Alzheimer's brain. And so we think this is really a well-supported phenomenon. And since nobody is going to give themselves 40 odors twice a day, particularly if you have dementia, we think
Right.
our memory air device is going to be a real important way to facilitate the treatment of this disorder. And of course, it's highly effective, it's
Mhm.
highly safe, it's not expensive, and it's going to be very easy to use. In fact, the memory air device, you only have to put in a scented belt that has the 40 odors once a month. You
Mhm.
then close the door on the device, and you don't have to press anything or do anything for the next month.
It turns on by itself at night.
It turns on by itself. You have to press it once as
Yeah.
you're putting on the belt, and after that, you don't have to do anything. And so we think this is really important to get the kind of compliance that you need in order for this thing to work. And that will allow people to do it not just for days or weeks, but for months and perhaps years.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Love that you're solving every problem associated with this condition as you listed out. It removes all the negatives and it's only positives. And on top of that, it automatically turns on, so you don't even have to hit that button every day. Man,
right.
congratulations. I can't wait for the success of this cool device and of all the research that you're bringing and helping people. This is really interesting. And I could imagine how even people, 30s, 40s are now biohackers are looking to improve their cognition. They're looking to improve how focused they are, their performance overall on a day-to-day basis. So this could be something that they might be interested in as well. And then I would assume that because it's actually reversing signs of dementia or so the pathophysiology of dementia in a lot of ways and reversing memory loss, that it could also forestall, it could delay that the whole chain of events from happening in the first place. So if you start in your 40s and 50s, then you're not even probably not even dealing with that level of dementia in the first place.
Yeah, we think that this olfactory stimulation is really important for brain health throughout life. And so we think that young adults are going to want to do this. If you look at healthy young adults who are being trained to be sommeliers, which are professional wine tasters,
Hmm.
actually, they're professional wine smellers. Uh, what happens is that they get trained to identify the specific odors in fine wines, by smelling dozens of odors each day over the course of months.
Mm.
And if you then look at their brains, the memory centers of their brains increase in size and capability. So young adults, we think, can benefit from this kind of stimulation just as much as older adults.
Yeah, that seems a very, very interesting use case. I would assume, I would imagine, again, I don't have any data, I'm asking you. I would imagine that this device, as you're breathing in these good fragrances, I'm assuming all essential oils, 40 different essential oils,
Mhm.
at night, this is going to also reduce your stress on a day-to-day basis. And as we know, and I believe you've pointed out as well, stress is a big problem in the modern world. It causes a big breakdown in your entire body, but also of your olfactory system, also in your brain, also overall health, and certainly anti-aging. And so if this does lower stress levels as well, instead of people meditating for, 30 minutes twice a day, which requires compliance and requires effort, if this could do that and maybe be on the same level or at par, then we've got a whole set of applications here that maybe you guys aren't planning for at the moment.
Yeah, when we developed our effective treatment for autism, a central part of that was giving them olfactory enrichment every day. So the
Mhm.
parents gave their children with autism olfactory stimulation several times a day over the course of, again, 6 months. And we found dramatic improvements in the behavior and their cognitive ability, along with all of the other symptoms that children with autism have.
Very interesting. Okay. Well, looks like this is a device that's going to be out. You mentioned before we started the call that it's going to be out in a month or two. Is that the timeline?
If all goes well, it's being manufactured as we speak, and we're going to get some trial devices, test them out. And once that clears that hurdle, we will then get a shipment of thousands of them. And we already have about 10,000 people who have already signed up to get one of these devices. If people are interested,
Mhm.
they can go to www.memoryair.com. Memory Air is one word, and they can sign up to be notified when these are available.
Wonderful, wonderful, Michael. Thank you for sharing memoryerror.com. I am excited about this device, even though I'm not the perfect use case or the perfect user for it. But it seems like it could have really good applications for a lot of people, especially, the folks over 60 that are worried about dementia, Alzheimer's, that have even the genes uh, that that make you um, be more susceptible to that condition in so much so. And so, yeah, I'm excited for this. Memoryair.com is where you go sign up for, when the device becomes available, then I'm sure you'll email people and also let them know the price and where to get it. So thank you for coming on the show, Michael. Please let us know where else people can find you, if you have any socials, if you're on Instagram or anywhere else people can look you up. But other than that, yeah, this was really great.
Pleasure to talk to you.